If revolution was a movie, I'd be theme music. Time to ignite what I spit is lighter fluid. Stepping into it, fixed rays, such a glorious design. Walking into the biggest fight of our lives. Time to spoil the revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BLKFLA experience. We are the cultural archive for the Black political movement in the state of Florida, where our purpose is to help you reimagine a Florida where Black people are able to live in freedom, equity, and authenticity. I'm your host for this wonderful experience. I go by the name of Jamal Still, and we are taking this time to dive into all things Black politics and Black culture. So let's get into it. All right. So I have the honor and the privilege of my first guest and my first guest co-host for this experience on today to be executive director for Florida for All. She's also the Florida State Representative for District 13. Your state rep, my state rep, literally, not figuratively. She actually is my state rep. I live in the area where she represents at. And just an all-out good person. And she from Jacksonville for real. Like, not one of these people that moved from somewhere else and came to Jacksonville simply just to run in politics, and whatnot. She from Jacksonville for real. I want y'all to give it up for my friend and yours, Angie Nixon.
Hi.
So what's going on? What's going on with you? How are things? How have things been since you have no longer have to be in the area of debauchery known as Tallahassee, Florida?
I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be in the community. Folks were like, "Are you getting rest?" I'm like, I literally have 4 events the very next day after legislative session. And so, I'm going to start trying to keep my Sundays to myself and my family, but probably not since I have Solidarity Sundays that we do once a month. So, I just love the community and being home. And even if I have to go to events and help folks like I always do, I'm just happy to be in Jacksonville, Florida.
Listen, we happy that you're here. We happy that you're back. We happy that you kept your head above water during the circumstance. So
I was vocal this year, but I didn't have to be as vocal as before. I think that I'm starting to rub off. I'm starting to rub off on some people, and folks are starting to see how messed up it is in Tallahassee as it relates to the leadership and how they really want to silence us. And, the fact that I believe Black Democrats got less than 3% of $115 billion budget as it relates to appropriations and money budgeted for like social programming and things that actually help improve our quality of life, not just like infrastructure needs. And that's a really horrible number, especially when there were some people that, kind of bit their tongue and, tried to play the game. And so, I'm over here like,
what we doing?
Hey, if I've been saying this a lot lately. I got it from, Darrell Willie spoke about it in August after the domestic terrorist shooting. And I've started using that same quote from a famous Floridian, Zora Neale Hurston. If you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and tell people that you enjoyed it. And, I can't be silent. And that's what they want. Like, I know that my opponent likes to say that I'm ineffective and that I haven't brought money home or I haven't passed any bills. That's a lie. I have brought money home. I've also passed a bill. And they also take some of my bills and put it in theirs, the Republican leadership, which is fine. I just, I really want the policy to move. But, I cannot be silenced. And, they tried to put me in a basement with rats. That didn't work. they they try to not give me money. They try to not do certain things so that I can be quiet or so that I can be seen as ineffective. But the people know, right? I think I'm very effective. I think I'm effective in different ways. I know that my office has helped house over 100 people, especially when I first got into office, when they shut down a hotel, an illegally operating hotel, and we were able to have some folks there. Then a few years later, another hotel got shut down, and so we were able to have those folks. And then also connecting people to resources that they need. And if their apartment complex isn't doing the right thing and they're turning off water and they're turning off heat and power, like, we get that stuff back on. And, I also answer people's phone calls. A lot of people don't do that. And I mean, it's the most basic of things when people want to feel like they're heard and their issues are being addressed. And so I would say I'm a very effective legislator.
And so you just went into like the surface level of things that occur in being a state representative, which is a very good segue, very awesome segue into our first segment here on the show, which I affectionately call What We Talm Bout. So, what we talking about is simply we touch on something on the show that is a recent event within culture or within politics. And of course, we just break it down so y'all are able to understand. So, Rep. Nixon, I'm just going to call her Angie.
Sure.
Angie just so affectionately went into the appropriations budget and how much we as Black people got within that appropriations budget and everything, which is a great and awesome segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is legislative session. So, for y'all that don't know, here in the state of Florida, there are 60 days where friends like my friend sitting here and countless other people that I have on speed dial in the phone drive up from their respective areas to Tallahassee, Florida for this thing known as legislative session. They either get nice little, because I know some of y'all, they get nice little hotels and little apartments that's just specifically for that time period. Or some of them, considering how close it is, they drive there, be up there for a couple of days, drive right back home. But within that 60-day time period, they are essentially writing, passing, debating on pieces of legislation and the state budget in order to get their friends, donors, corporate interest groups, and the people, and it seems like in that order that I just said, friends, corporate interest groups, their donors, and then the people, what it is that they need for the state of Florida. Now, with this being an election year, because every year is an election year here in the state of Florida, to be really honest with you, and everywhere in the country, but with this being a major election year, legislative session was from January until March. When it's not an election year, it's from March until May. So as y'all heard, March the 8th was the last day of legislative session. We're going to get right into it. What are things that people should know coming out of legislative session, that some of these pieces of legislation will be in effect starting June the 1st, or in some cases,
July 1.
July 1.
July 1 are usually immediate, or if they set it for a later date. But the majority of bills go into effect on July 1. Mm-hmm. We often say that's where freedom goes to die. That's when freedom goes to die. But what I want folks to take away from this legislative session is that, yeah, it's an election year. And so the Republicans didn't go as hard because they are afraid to not be reelected. And so they did go a little hard, but not as hard as they normally do. We passed some child labor bills, many of which we were able to make less bad. And that's like the main thing, the main takeaway this legislative session. We were able to work through collective advocacy, through getting folks involved to make phone calls and send emails and to go out and speak against a lot of bad bills. We were able to kill some bills or just, make them less bad. And to say like, that's our wins, like, it's so wild here in the state of Florida, but like when you stop a bad bill, you're like, yes. Mm-hmm. So, there were bad bills that were moving in regards to Confederate monuments being put back up, or people, so if you put them back up or if you removed them, a municipality, they could have gotten fined or lost money for cultural things. And so that bill died. Yep. Woo! That bill, might I add, was filed by Representative Dean Black, who is the Republican Party chair in Duval County, who I found out the other day when they were arguing about not allowing people to eat cultivated meat. I found out that his family has been in the cattle industry and cattle farming since 1802. What does that say?
Once again, corporate interests.
And not even just that. Think about it. What was going on in 1802? Where they got that land from in 1802? Oh, it was probably
slavery.
1802. So this is like, okay, now I see it's all making sense to me now. Anyway, so we were able to stop that bill. We were also able to stop a lot of anti-trans bills. There was a bill that would have made it illegal for or preempted local governments from flying a pride flag. Like, okay, like why are we doing it? Like, can't members of the LGBTQ community like be uplifted and encouraged, and we can acknowledge their existence? Like, what in the world? Just crazy. Exactly. Just wild. Another bill that we were able to stop. Sorry, I'm checking some notes. There was a bad gun bill that would have reversed the Parkland Safety Act and lowered the age to purchase a gun from 21 back to 18. Mm-hmm. And so that stopped. We were able to get that to stop. Yay. Also, there was another bill that would have meant financial aid to in-state tuition. Students would be blocked for students that publicly expressed support or protested for Palestine. That didn't pass. So that was a huge win for free speech.
Yeah, and I remember that one because it would have put those students in a space where if they were getting Pell Grants or financial aid, all of that just would have been revoked for them just because they out here yelling free Palestine and right. all the things. So yeah, I'm very happy that one was like kiboshed.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Another bill that would have empowered abusers and given fetuses civil rights failed to pass in each chamber. So super excited about that, especially since, what came out of Alabama stating that your embryos and things like that, saying that that's when life begins and they're considered human, which I don't think is the case.
And just finding out that 3% of women in the country give birth through in vitro fertilization, and out of state of Alabama is like, nope.
Can't do that here.
Can't do that.
If you do, you cannot. Basically, you're going to be whatever. We're not going to go there. Anyway, We were able to stop a voter suppression bill from like moving at all. Like I don't think it got a hearing. Did it get a hearing? I can't even remember. But what this would have done was it would have eliminated no excuse absentee ballots for vote by mail, as well as severely impacted voting access for seniors and people with disabilities. And so we were also able to make a child labor bill less bad. They were going to allow all students to work unlimited hours, and not have to have breaks. Now they have to have breaks after 5 hours. They have to have a 30-minute break. And now they can't necessarily work unlimited hours. I think it's only unlimited hours for basically children that are in homeschooling. They put in a curfew and children can't work. They have to work between the hours of 6:30 a.m. and I believe it's 11 p.m. And so we were able to make that bill less bad because it was going to be like they can work overnight, no breaks, like all the things, which is wild. And then there was another bill that we made less bad that would have allowed children who were 16 to 17-year-olds to be able to work on roofs and scaffolding. And like, that is wild because I have a 16-year-old and I can't get her to clean up her room or wash clothes correctly. So to think that we will allow 16 and 17-year-olds to get on the roof and put a roof on correctly and like with the potential of falling off, come on.
You're not gonna do my friend.
Work on the scaffolding.
You're
And
not
so
gonna do my friend that like that though. You're not gonna do that.
But we were able to get them to remove those things, and so they're still able to work like on a residential construction site, but they can't climb on the roof and stuff, and they have to be overseen by someone's 21. That's still, we were like, come on now, 21, they still learning. But you know, again, we made it less bad. So also, we had a few good bills that went through. I believe there was a slight increase in some of the school readiness dollars. I know they pulled some of my previous bill and put it in that bill, so that's a win for early child care advocates. And yeah, and so that's where we're at in this legislative session.
And I appreciate starting the segment with all the wins, all the victories, yay, all the good things.
I forgot to say though, there was a bad thing that happened. Now our teachers and educators, they can't be trained on like DEI and that type of stuff, so that's completely removed, which totally sucks. And then we saw some of our colleagues argue the fact that they feel Black people benefited from slavery and that some Black people were paid. And so, you know, whatever.
Like Black folks was paid. Black folks were paid during slavery.
Insert the video of Representative Alex Andrade arguing on the House floor, talking about slaves making money. Insert that right here.
Right here.
To teach about slavery in Florida, and that it was evil. But if we can't have an honest discussion and say that some slaves were paid for their work and were able to actually get a portion of payment that slave owners received for their labor, then we're afraid of teaching accurate history. If you were not aware that some slaves received payment, not payment that was good, not payment that was valid, not payment that was moral. But if we can't even have that discussion in this room, what hope do we have to teach and actually agree on facts? Like, what hope do we have?
Thanks for sharing all of the great things that happen. Of course, you know, we all know about the anti-DEI bill that passed. We also know about the civilian review board bill that
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
And of course, as stated at the beginning of the show, we also know about the appropriations budget. And
Yeah.
just to go a little bit into the budget. Why is it important to know that Black people only really receive like 3% of
Yeah. It's important to know because it's important for us to realize that they're not taking us seriously until we show up at the ballot box. And so in order for us to be a part of the process, we have to show up, and not just at the ballot box. Like, we have to show up year round, 24/7. We need Black people at the Capitol all the time advocating for Black issues and things that we care about. And you talked about the fact that they've gotten rid of, they preempted and gotten rid of local municipalities' ability to have civilian review boards, police safety, public safety committees, whatever you want to call it. But not only that, but now they made it so that there was another bill that passed. If a first responder asks you to get back, first responder being EMT, being a police officer, you have to now move away 25 feet. And you can't harass them or impede or anything like that, or you can face a charge. You can be arrested for that. And also, we were trying to get it put in the bill to make sure that peacefully videotaping wasn't considered harassment, but they wouldn't put that in the bill. They wouldn't accept that amendment. And so that is potentially harmful for members of the Black community, because if that law may have been in effect, like during what happened to George Floyd, like, we may not have ever seen what happened to George Floyd. Mm-hmm. And what it all boils down to is they don't want us to have a voice. They don't want us to push for policies that address and work to end systemic racism. They want to instead pass bills that help corporations profit billions and billions of dollars while not paying what they owe, right? Like, they're not paying what they owe, but we as citizens, as Floridians, as taxpayers, as working families, we have to pay what we owe, and sometimes pay even more based on regressive taxes, right? But these big billion-dollar companies aren't doing that. And they are instead using some of that money to put into the pockets of the people that are passing these bad bills. And so it's really important for us, again, to get involved in the process so that we can get a Black agenda, so that we can get a Black people's budget. And then, like, this is a class war. Systemic racism is real, but also this is a class war. And, Martin Luther King learned that towards the end of his life, which is why he was which is why he was talking about the Poor People's Campaign, right? And the fact that Black people need to work with, poor whites and Asians and Hispanics so that we can come together. That's what they're fearful of. They're fearful of losing power and control and wealth.
Right. And I think for me, one of the greatest showings of that coalition during legislative session was February 7th and the 8th were 2 days where Equal Ground Education Fund and Florida Rising were doing days at the Capitol. And they were also helping Senator Geraldine Thompson as well as Rep. Bracy Davis introduce their piece of legislation they were trying to get passed, which didn't happen. It literally got stalled, didn't even get a hearing, but is the More Voting Rights Act, which pretty much would have given the state of Florida its own statewide voting rights act. I think close to 10 to 15 states in the country actually have state voting rights acts in their particular state. But for us, it would have given automatic voter registration from the time that you go and get your driver's license, same day voter registration. If you miss all the deadlines and everything, you still can register to vote on election day, whether during the primary or general election. Would have taken away a lot of the restrictions for returning citizens so they can be able to vote. And then makes it easier for early voting, makes it easier for vote by mail. Just all the things that I just think that would make it easier for democracy to be fruitful and valiant here in the state of Florida. But of course, if we make democracy easier for the people, then the current people that sit in these seats
won't be
don't
there.
sit in these seats anymore. And so it's like, what do we do? It's a catch 22. Do I want to keep my seat or do we want to go ahead and pass it? Nah, I kind of want to stay here for a little bit longer. This is a nice little cushy place.
They're trying to die now, they dying in these seats.
Literally dying in these seats. But those 2 days for me spoke to the power that the people truly have. And if those who are within the working class continue to, those who are in the working class stop voting against their best interests and realize that this coalition that's already built, just add yourself into the mix. Imagine what we can achieve here in the state of Florida. So
right. We might actually get them to address things like the property insurance crisis or the rising cost of rent, instead of, again, looking out for corporations who are basically controlling all these single family houses and apartment complexes and jacking up rents and making it unaffordable and making people leave.
Making doctors and OBGYNs leave, making
teachers leave.
Like everybody want to leave Florida. And
I know it's an over 8,000 educator shortage. And OBGYNs don't feel comfortable here because they don't know what they can and cannot do if they be considered violating the law by giving people health care, access to reproductive health care.
And then, of course, a lot of the third-party voter organizations, they don't feel comfortable being in the streets, even just simply registering people to vote.
Right.
So now,
they can face a fine or felony charges for mistakes, but the people in power be like, no, you did that intentionally, and then they're in jail and got a $250,000 fine. Just wild.
So this year, being 2024, of course, this is a year where the everybody in the state house. So let's just speak on the state house because that's where you're at. Every seat in the state house is up for re-election.
Yep.
And so as we finish this segment, what do you want for the people who are listening on today to understand as we go into this election? What do you want them to understand about voting on those particular state house seats and why it's vital in this particular, even more so why it's vital this year more than any other year that we've had?
Look, for sure, I want people to go and to look at the different organizations that work in the community and see how they grade these legislators. And if, in fact, the folks were heroes or zeros, right? Like, what did they do for our community? And if they didn't do anything for our community, then we need to vote them out. And, we need to start holding not only Republicans accountable, we need to hold Democrats accountable, and we need to make them sign on to a people's budget, a people's agenda. We want our futures funded. They need to fund our futures, period. And so if folks can't agree to that, then maybe we need to look elsewhere for people who can. Like, I am only beholden to the people because the people put me there. Corporations did not put me there. So, like, that's why I'm able to do things like file a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza and Palestine, as well as call for the release of hostages. But, I was able to do that because I am not beholden to corporate interests, and I'm beholden to people who come from movement. I'm beholden to my constituents who, I have a high population of Palestinian Americans, and their family members are gone. Like, a lot of their family members are gone. Bloodlines wiped out, unfortunately. And why would I not want those over there to experience peace, right? And especially being a woman, a Black woman who has been targeted, who has been shown microaggressions, who has faced all types of issues similar to and whose ancestors have faced similar issues as to what is currently going on in Palestine. And so, that's one of the reasons why we need to elect people who care about the community, who've been doing work in the community, and not just when it's time to run for office.
And that's it. That is us letting y'all know what we talking about on this episode of BLKFLA. Now, let's get into it. I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing my friend, my colleague, my comrade in this struggle for Black liberation, State Representative Angie Nixon, all of the things. So, the reason as to why I wanted to, and I don't necessarily think of this as an interview, I just really think of this as us having a conversation that we have on a normal basis, but we just sharing it with a whole bunch of people. So for me, the first half of this season is known as the Elite Eight. And the Elite Eight are 8 guests who influence this podcast, influence the BLKFLA movement as a whole, or have a huge influence in Black political and cultural organizing in the state of Florida. And in watching everything that you've done since I've known you, either on a professional or personal level, because you actually reminded me that we first kind of like really knew each other back in like 2019, because I was inadvertently working for Angie and trying to collect petitions for Medicaid expansion to be on the 2020 budget. Didn't happen. But in watching all of the things that you've done, I think you fit the mold of what this movement really is about. Reimagining this state to where we as Black people can truly live in the authentic nature of who we are. And that's why it was important for me that if I didn't have anybody else be the first guest on this podcast, it absolutely, like, we had to kick it off with you, because it was just like, no, Angie really is what BLKFLA is about. And before we really get into the interview, I'm gonna tell like this quick story, and we're just gonna go into it. So I called Angie probably like maybe a year and a half ago, And like we were just having conversations about the work I was doing because I also operate in the space of being the state organizing manager for the state of Florida for Black Voters Matter. And in having that conversation, Angie was like, yo, like I really think you should start this organization, or you should just start an org that tries to mesh hip hop with politics, not knowing that a few months prior to us having this conversation, me and shout out to my guy, Mr. Al Pete, who is over the network that this podcast is on, the MPN Network. We actually were sitting at Angie's house after the primary. We were sitting in your house because you had the celebration because you won the primary. You was moving on to the general, and me and him was having this conversation about BLKFLA, and he was like, yo, like, I really think that you should start a podcast around just relaying that message to people because it sounds really, really dope. So it's like everything aligned to get us to this point that we're at now. And a lot of it, you were in play in making it happen.
Cool.
And so I want to thank you for that. Like, first off, I want to thank you for that because, you know, inviting me into the house, inviting me into your family, and more so inviting me into the work that needs to be done, specifically here in Jacksonville, is what makes me look at you past just being somebody that I do this work with and really honestly being a friend and a sister for real.
Thanks.
You know, all the
Don't
things.
make me cry.
So we're gonna get into it. With every guest that we are going to have on this podcast, we are going to do 2 top 5s. two top 5s. So the first top 5 is you gotta, because of the fact that we are the podcast that intersects Black politics with Black culture, you gotta give me your top 5 music artists right now on the spot. Gotta give me your top 5 music artists.
Okay, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but the reason I'm choosing this as number 5 is because this person is number 5 is because they are unapologetic about who they are.
I feel like I know who you're gonna say, but I'm gonna let you go ahead and say it.
And they don't care. Now, granted, do I feel that this person could move a little different? Do I want our babies to like follow this person? No, but like the reality of it is that this person does represent a portion of Black people, of Black women, and we gotta like not like turn our backs on them and, you know, listen to what they have to say as what, like, we got to bring people in and meet them where they are. It's Sexxy Red.
So I knew it, because yo, since we going hard for Sexxy Red on Facebook, so like,
I feel like she is the Black sheep in the family, and I feel like in terms of like being an elected official, I'm like the Black sheep in the Black elected officials, you know, landscape, because folks, it's so funny. Folks say that, you know, I'm an activist, and I'm like, I'm not just an activist. I'm an organizer, number one, because there is a difference.
There's a vast difference.
But not only, and no hate on activists and activism. Like, I do it all, but like I'm an organizer. Like I don't just, you know, plan protests. I'm actually like working to strategically move things, move people. But like people don't know how to take me because I'm not like the typical elected official. And, you know, I don't code switch. I can speak professionally, but I don't code switch. You're going to get this y'all. And I'm going to break things down so everybody can understand what I'm talking about, because you know, I also feel like I'm the Black sheep in the movement sometimes too, because I don't speak movement language and, you know, being alignment and alignment work and this and that. And people don't understand that. Like regular working class folks, they like, what you talking about? So, you know, that's there. And so then number 4, you know, he made me a little mad when I saw him. So he's not gonna be number 1. You know, there's a saying, don't like meet your favorite artist
your heroes.
or your hero, yeah, because you might be music soul child. Baby, I used to love, he was straight up top 1. And I had a conversation with him. I just felt like my husband says I'm thinking too deeply and the man was tired, but I was like, I'm a little sad at how he responded to me or whatever. So I would say music soul child. Number 3, I would say I am loving Fly on the Boss. Like, I think they are so dope. Like, they are so young and so rowdy, and like they're unapologetic about everything too. So I love them. Number 2, I would say is who was my number 2? My number 1 is Fantasia. I love me some Fantasia. So she's number 1. She could put on a bomb behind performance. And then like number 2, I gotta say I'm probably like I'm not a member of the Beehive, but I'm kind of staying in Beyonce right now. So Beyonce will be my number 2.
She got Fantasia over Beyonce, which is very acceptable, by the way, because I have seen Fantasia live, and you are very, very right, and you're very correct in your sentiments. Okay, so your other top 5 is top five Black leaders who have influenced you. Yeah.
So I would say number 5 would be Fannie Lou Hamer. The way in which she like came into movement and like was herself a farm worker and just, you know, was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like, I feel the same way. Hey, I feel the same way. But again, like to what I was saying earlier, like meeting people where they are, like that's her style of organizing, right? So she's influenced me. I would say number 4, I would say Malcolm X influenced me, and love me some Malcolm X, super militant. I'm all about it, about the life. Number 3, I would say Martin Luther King Jr. You know, especially older Martin, right before he died, Martin, like when he realized, like, did I make a mistake? Integrated my folks into burning houses, like that Martin, you know? And so
that's the Martin they never want to talk about, by the way.
At all. They just want to talk about the peaceable Martin. Number 2, I'm starting to read up now a lot about Ella Baker and like how she wanted the students of SNCC to like stay separate from like all the bigger organizations, to have their own voice, and how she was really instrumental in that work. And then number 1, I would have to say is Elaine Brown. She was the only chairwoman of the Black Panther Party. She's still alive. I have met her. I have brought her to Jacksonville. She is dope. I met her when I was on Bernie 2016 in Oakland, that campaign. And like, she doesn't get a lot of credit for like leading the Panther Party, the Black Panther Party, during a time where there weren't like Black women leaders leading organizations like that. And then her analysis of like what happened and what took place back then is like very real. And you know, she's very critical about how we're in the movement right now, and the fact that yes, we did film the George Floyd. They did film the George Floyd incident, and we are filming stuff, but like, we just gonna let people kill our brothers and sisters in our faces? Like, what can, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I know that not everyone is willing, as you hear the baby in the background.
Shout out to Juice.
Shout out to Jews. But it's like, they were willing to die for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Black Panthers were willing to die to make sure that people were free. And I'm willing to die to make sure my people are free. I know, like, sometimes my mom and husband are like, you're doing too much. And it's like, I'm not doing enough, I feel like. And, you know, again, going back to the being able to stand up and do the resolution on Palestine and the ceasefire, like, I just got up in front of people who ain't had no guns. You know what I'm saying? Like, people were like, are you scared? Like, I was shaking and nervous, but like, that wasn't even on the front lines. And so, I kind of like, I try to agitate people around how they show up and what they're doing. And like, really, I had posted on social media, I was like, some of y'all talk about what y'all doing and how y'all in this fight, but some of y'all would have been telling Rosa, oh no, come to the back, you gonna get us in trouble. Like, honestly, like, we gotta be willing to sacrifice and lose something, or we're not gonna gain anything. And so that's where I'm at, and that's why I love Miss Elaine Brown.
I think we honestly just got a lot out of just both your top fives. Like, we got a lot about who you are as a person, and more so as an organizer, just out of your top fives. And so I think to start everything off is just give us just like a quick journey into who you are as an organizer and how you initially got into being an organizer.
Yeah, for sure. So, born and raised in Northwest Jacksonville, actually born on a dump site, an ash site, where they would come and dump ashes from like an incinerator. The neighborhood school that I was supposed to go to, Mayor McLeod Bethune, that actually closed that down a little later while I was in college. But, you know, my whole family went to Raines, except my auntie, she defected and went to Reebok. But I wanted to go to Raines, but my mom told me she didn't want to make the same mistake she made with my brother. So in elementary school, I was bused across town, wasn't allowed to go to the neighborhood schools, and noticed that there was like disparities at an early age, that the children had different books, didn't have as much homework as I did, and all the things. And that's me having gone to a white school and them going to a predominantly Black neighborhood school. And so my cousin wound up going to neighborhood schools. My favorite cousin, actually, he was my only cousin who was in town, actually, who lived here. Everyone else had moved away. But went to neighborhood schools, wound up getting in trouble, wound up going to alternative schools, learning alternative things. And he got in trouble for things that if they would have went to my schools, the academic magnets and the Stanton College preparatory high schools, he would have just got a slap on the wrist. And so, you know, he wound up getting in trouble, falling into the school to prison pipeline, and then he got killed by someone who he thought was his friend. And, you know, I had another cousin a few years ago also got killed, wound up in the school to prison pipeline. But, you know, I didn't want my daughter to have to lose her favorite cousin, who was the son of my favorite cousin, to the same thing. And so I started getting involved, and I wound up going to UF. I wanted to be a journalist, but wound up taking some state and local politics courses and changed my major. to political science, intern with then City Councilwoman Mia Jones. She resigned to run for state rep, the first state rep, District 14, the seat that I initially started out in.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to run for her seat for city council. Didn't win, but that opened up a ton of doors. And then I met a guy by the name of Alvin Brown. We wound up going through a political leadership boot camp together. And then he asked me to join his campaign. And we elected the first Black mayor of Jacksonville and the first Democrat in over 20 years. And so when that happened, there were a lot of organizations that were trying to figure out like how we did it and that stuff. And so then Florida New Majority came up here, led by Gihan Pereira. They were asking us questions, all of this. I guess he felt that I was had a little bit of raw talent, and he asked me to join Florida New Majority, and I became the first organizer here for Florida New Majority, which morphed into New Florida Majority, which is now Florida Rising, since they've merged with Organized Florida. And so, like, the rest is history. I've been involved in movement for over a decade now, and I'm still learning each and every day, but you know, I'm grinding because I care about my community. And so that's my number one love. Like, I love the state of Florida. I love Jacksonville, but in my love for it, I'm going to be critical of it because I want it to be the best. And so that's how I operate. That's how I came into this space. And that's how I'm going to continue to work and move.
Indeed. So in hearing all of this, I just learned your first initial entry into the political realm was running for city council here in Jacksonville. So what lessons were learned from that initial campaign?
Yeah, what lessons were learned were like, you got to be in a community and they got to know who you are for you to win. And so Reggie Brown had ran for office like one or two times before, and so he beat me. But like I fell in love with like trying to help people with their issues, you know, going out knocking on doors, learning issues and things like that. And so I got immersed in it and wanted to help. And so that's where I'm at. But if you want to run for office, you have to try to fill a need, get to know the community. And like, I try to fill needs. Like, people didn't have anything to do on the north side, so I tried to develop something. People didn't have stuff to do on the east side, so I tried to develop something. Connecting people to resources, right? And then also, like, people want to make sure, they want to know you're accessible, and that you're not like standoffish. And so like, I try to open up a little bit of my life to people so that they know that I'm a normal person and I'm just like them. I let them know my struggles and all the things, but I also, and that we can overcome it. And I also try to motivate them because, you know, I was motivated. I got a hand up as well. And so I try to do the same for folks.
One of the things that you touched on was the importance of finding out from the people as you're knocking doors, phone banking, all of the things, the importance of finding out what the issues are. And so why should finding out what the issues are trump over letting people know this is the person you should vote for, or this is the person?
Because like, if you don't know their issues, you don't want to just elect someone just because they want to be in office. Some people actually want that. They just want power. I don't want power. I want power from my people. I want collective community power so that folks don't have to worry about like where they're going to get their next meal. And so it's important to elect someone who cares about the issues that are impacting the district and the residents and the community, because if they care about it, then they're going to try to work to fix it and not just be up in office doing whatever they want to do and looking out for themselves. One thing y'all going to see is Angie Nixon will not go to jail for nobody as it relates to trying to take money from something or whatever. I ain't doing it. Like, no. Now, will I go to jail for civil disobedience? Possibly, but those are two different things. And I just want to look out for my people.
No, absolutely. And I think that point really resonates with people when it comes to you. Like I know I've had conversations with people around that, and they're like, yo, if it's nothing else, like Angie gonna look out for folk. And Angie gonna look out for the neighborhood and the community. And so that, I think that's what makes it easier to go to the polls and vote for somebody like you, because it's not like, oh, we're voting Angie in. No, we're voting in someone that we know is gonna have concern for us, no matter how hard it is to get some of these things passed because of the super majority that these people got over the state, all of the pieces of state legislature. Let's not even talk about
state, all Senate, governor's mansion, all of it.
They got all of it. So go into how the initial conversation was when you decided 2020, I'm finna run for state house, and I'm finna run against this person who, like, this where they ain't been at.
Kim Daniels, who says she thanks God for slavery.
Listen, that's what she been at.
Who has said some of the rudest and most disrespectful and homophobic, transphobic things. That person, yeah.
Yes.
No one wanted to run against her. And I just could not continue to allow someone to be in office who was not being responsive to the community. People would call me to help out with things that she should have been helping out with. She wasn't returning phone calls. And so, like, shoot, I was already doing a little bit of the job. Might as well get the official title for it. But yeah, no, I really did not want to run. I tried to find multiple people to run. They did not want to do it. And finally, I just bit the bullet and went ahead and did it.
So you are, so you are running this campaign. I remember first initially finding out about your campaign, I want to say my second month into being with Black Voters Matter. Like, I had all of North Florida as the regional organizer. And so, you know, I'm trying to find out who all the players are and all of the cities that I got. And your campaign ad kept popping up, even though I lived all the way in Pensacola. Your campaign ad kept popping up on the Facebook. And I was like, I said, man, like, I heard this name before. And I looked at my phone. I was like, oh, it's this Angie. Oh, okay. And so you're running this campaign. It's an effective campaign because the ad reaching me all the way in Pensacola. And I'm like, oh, I'm mad. Like, I don't live in Jacksonville because I want to vote for her. And started telling all my people in Jacksonville.
I was trying to get y'all to donate to me.
That part I did. I threw a little bit because I had a nice job by that time, so I threw a little bit out. And there's this, you running this, but it's also at the same time you about to have this child.
I know.
So it's like, listen, I was having a conversation with somebody around this. I was like, my daughter and Angie's daughter, I think, are like 2 to 3 months apart. Mm-hmm. So we have, not only do we got movement kids, we got COVID kids.
I know, they off the chain. Lord.
These COVID babies is something else. So, like, so there's all these pieces. Like, number one, you pregnant. Number two, it's a whole panini outside, as the kids like to say. It's a whole panini outside. Can't go nowhere without putting on 2-3 masks. Mm-hmm. And then George Floyd happens.
I know.
George Floyd happens. Breonna Taylor happens. Ahmaud Arbery. Pick one or pick all. And so, what's going into all of this? What's going into the campaign as all of this is coming down the line. I'm about to have this baby. If
I
I
put it
breathe,
all in the campaign. I let people know, like, I'm a working mom. I've got COVID. I'm pregnant, like all the things, like, but I'm still out here. So I need you. Like, this is how dedicated I am because I care about my community so much, and I'm like at risk myself right now.
Mhm.
But
And I remember that too. I remember you doing the election, and then it was like, oh, she got COVID. And I'm like, but ain't sis pregnant? I was like, no, like, stay in the
yeah.
house.
And then, just also the movement, like the 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 lynching of George Floyd, right? So wanting people to know like we deserve better. We need to hold these folks accountable so that this won't happen again. And so again, I'm an organizer and an activist. And so I was down to be in those streets and to educate people and to like try to pull them in during that time. Like you can't allow situations like that to happen and to not try to capture people's feelings and wanting to do something. You got to pull them in.
Right. And I think that was the thing that put you over the top, especially when June 6th happened and y'all had like 10,000 people out in the streets in Jacksonville. And here you go with as I like to call it, the low box fade out here with this mask on with the mic in your hand. I was like, yo, that should be the campaign picture right there. That's it.
And a big old belly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you win, and you go into the state house. It's funny. It's funny every year that we get into these state house elections. It's like you'll call me or we'll have these conversations. Hey man, they trying to get somebody to primary me. Here they go again. Like, and my response to you every time is, I feel like you really shouldn't worry about this.
I am not taking anything for granted.
Like, because I feel like you about to wipe the floor with these.
I'm not taking anything for granted. I hope I did a good job for my community. I hope they want me to be reelected. But I'm going to run my race and I'm going to run it hard. I'm going to run like I'm 20 points down.
So in 2022, Ron DeSantis decides, hey, I want to draw up my own maps.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And
constitutionally.
It drawed up it's been proven in so many courts here in the state.
So ridiculous.
That these maps are unconstitutional. And so you all have a special session, because by this time, session is over with. And now we got to have a special session around redistricting. And the state legislators that are a part of the GOP are afraid that they won't get any campaign funds for their reelection from Governor DeSantis and decide we're going to pass these maps.
Yeah.
In the midst of deciding to pass these maps, you take it upon yourself to have this sit in on
my brother in. We tried to pull other people in, but they were too nervous at first.
Listen, God bless them. So quick story. I'm literally on a field staff. I'm on a field staff call. We are on a field staff meeting. And I am looking at my phone and it says Angie Nixon is live now. I said, why is Angie live? She on the House floor. You're not supposed to be live and have your phone on the floor. I hit it, and you're literally not just on the House floor, you are on the House floor, like
on the seal,
on the floor. And I was like, what? And then I come off mute and I was like, hey, y'all, I'm about to get in my car and drive to Tallahassee. Why? Because most of the black House constituents are currently sitting on the House floor having this sit-in. They was like, get in your car. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And before I could make it, a mutual friend of ours called me on the phone and was like, yeah, Angie said don't come. You fine. Like, you good. And I was like, she was like, yeah, she knew you was coming and they kicking people out. So she said don't come. And I was like, oh okay, bye. So go into that plan. Go into how we get to that sit-in.
We felt like, why were we here? And we shouldn't be here. This is unconstitutional. We gotta do something to bring attention, because a lot of people didn't know that they were about to remove Black congressional districts. And so, me and Travaris, we chopped it up, and then we tried to get some other folks involved. And then, some people said yes, and then they turned around and were like, no, we can't do it, which is fine, right?
And for those of y'all, before you continue, for those of y'all, when she say Travaris, that's
Representative Travaris
McCurdy. That's my guy.
Former state rep in House District 40-something. Don't get me wrong, but Orlando, based in Orlando. I want to say 42 or 44. So I just know that we planned the night before. We got T-shirts. We had went to the mall, got T-shirts.
Sis stepped on the house floor with this T-shirt that stop the Black attack. Right. And I was like, yes.
Exactly. We didn't tell leadership because we knew they probably would have tried to shut it down. So I had on a shirt covering my shirt, kind of tucked in, because you can't wear shirts with the stuff on that. And so right when they were speaking and before they were about to allow us to vote, got nervous. Took that shirt off. I had got another person to give me a sign, I Juan Whitfield with Faith in Public Life. And the sign said, politicians work for the people, not the party, should work for the people, not the party. And so got up and started saying, stop the Black attack, stop the Black attack, and tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. And then Travaris got and he joined me, and we stopped the process for like a little hour. They didn't know what to do. And that's what caused me to be put in the basement the very next year.
They put you in the basement office with the rats. Because we was out here talking about, this is what democracy looks like. Show me what listen, it was
unconstitutional. And then they were like, oh, she's leading an insurrection. Sir, no, I'm not. I was supposed to be there. Okay? I just slowed the process down. That's all.
I was like, they started putting people out, people up in the gallery. It's like, y'all gotta go.
Y'all gotta go.
Listen.
And we had planned it out. Like we had we planned it out.
It's like, and they started putting people out, the reps out. I was like, they sent them to another. I was like, how? Why? Like, because that was a part of the call that I got. They were like, yeah, they starting to put people out, and they starting to put. They putting the media out. So if you come, you're probably gonna get arrested. And I was like,
put everybody out. They
like going back to the house.
They tried to control that narrative that day, baby. Speaker Chris Prowse was livid. He was like, they hijacked the process. I was like, nobody ain't hijacked nothing. Y'all hijacked the process illegally by ramming unconstitutional maps down our throats.
And shout out to the immediate response from organizations such as Equal Ground, Black Voters Matter, Legal Women Voters, Florida Rising. We still in that lawsuit now. I'm just waiting on them to give me that phone. I'm just waiting on them to give me that phone call. Like, you got to go in and testify. I'm like, because my mouth too slick. God bless. So
Lord.
So then I want to say it was last year. Yeah, it was last year going into this year. We have the ceasefire.
Yeah.
We have the ceasefire resolution. Now, for people who don't know, the city with the highest population of Palestinian / Middle Eastern Americans in the United States is Detroit, Michigan. It's Detroit and Dearborn. The second city in the United States with the highest population of Palestinian / Middle Eastern Americans per capita is Jacksonville. A lot of people don't know that. And so correct me if I'm wrong, this is something that goes into play in creating a resolution of this kind. The fact that you represent a district that essentially a lot of your constituents come from Palestine.
And, Saddam Muhammad, no, I'm sorry. And, so you got to get that part. And, Saddam Mahmoud,
Mm-hmm.
I thought of her. And I called her and I said, I want to do a resolution. Like I have to do something. And she's in my district and she's an organizer and an activist within the JCAC and the Palestinian Network here. And so I just had to do something. Like, again, I am only beholden to the people. And so when you're only beholden to the people, you can do things like that. And I issued a resolution, and in my closing debate, I asked how many Palestinians must die before we are able to get a ceasefire. And one of my colleagues, Representative Michelle Solomon, said all of them. And I'm happy I had the thought to say, whoa, wow, one of my colleagues just said all of them.
All of them.
And then I say one of my colleagues also said that it would drive our fundraising if we did the ceasefire, which was disgusting to me. Like, I don't care. Because I don't care if I'm elected or not, I'm gonna still do this work. And so, it's about people, it's about humanity. And I know I'm on the right side of history. And again, I ain't beholden to nobody but the people. So the people are happy with me. I mean, there are some people that are upset, but the people in my community, they come up to me and say, hey, thank you for doing what you were doing. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm on the right side of history and I did what I was supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And so we're here. And while I was on the floor debating, Randy Fine got all the Republicans to stand up and turn their backs on me. It was wild. The room was tense. It was bad.
And I also want to give, because number one, Travars was actually in the room that day.
Yes. I called him, so our, former electeds are allowed to sit on the House floor. And so I said, I need you. No one's going to be with me. I need you to come and have my back. And he did. And he sat there with me.
Yes, it was last year.
It was November.
I remember.
November. It was November.
Yeah, because
a month after Hamas.
Mm-hmm. Because the day that it happened was also election day here in Orlando. In Orlando for the Orlando municipal election. Because I was in Orlando that day and I was trying to get in contact with him. And then when I saw the video, I was like, oh, well, that's how come I can't reach him. He in Tallahassee. Never mind.
Yeah.
But I also want to send love to Rep. Anna Eskamani.
Yes, because she voted for the ceasefire as well.
Yeah, and
she's also from Orlando. So yeah, Anna's my girl. Representative Anna Eskamani is my girl. Anna V. Eskamani. And we back each other up a lot. Because again, we're not beholden to corporations, we're beholden to the people. And like she's a great, not only a colleague, but she's like my friend. Like she's legit my friend.
Yeah.
So she's a great person, and I'm looking forward to what she does after her last session next year.
It's valuable to have those friends like that be with you
Yeah.
during those particular hard times. And listen, y'all, as much as I love living in Jacksonville, I really do. Having both state reps from Pensacola just do
Oh,
something
they just the worst.
like just wow, outlandish stuff. Just make me just want to get in my car, just pack up all my stuff and move back so I can try to run against these, because it's ridiculous. I'm like,
they off the chain. Salzman and Andrade.
listen, like Salzman telling people all of them, and then Andrade is like, you know, yeah, we got paid.
Slaves got paid.
We got paid during the slavery. Oh man. So my last two questions to you. My first one is, in the midst of ceasefire resolution, ceasefire resolution does not get passed. A few days after the resolution, you find out, as does everyone else in the state of Florida, that you have an opponent.
Oh yeah. For
your primary on August the 20th. Your opponent has stated, this is not hearsay. This is a paraphrasing of a quote directly from the Florida Politics article. Your opponent has stated one of the reasons as to why they are running against you in the primary is that you have not gotten things done for the community that you represent in Jacksonville. Now, I, as an esteemed friend and colleague of yours, know that is far, far from the truth. But I am blessed to be able to have this platform to be able to address these issues. And so on August the 20th, 2024, or during early voting before that, why should Angie Nixon be the right choice for a third state house term?
Yeah, so for sure. I think I said it, I mentioned it earlier, this isn't about me. This is about the people, and I'm here for the people. I'm only beholden to the people. The people wanted me to do a ceasefire, and let's be clear, right? My opponent wanted to run for public defender. My opponent saw that I filed that ceasefire resolution. My opponent felt that she could capitalize and get some money from folks that were upset at me. That's all this is. And so, my opponent is not me. We're totally opposite. And I like to return people's phone calls. I like to be accessible to community members. And, I like to help people find housing and connect them to resources that they need. I like to bring people into spaces to learn about history and to participate in things that are culturally relevant to them, and to just create an environment where we can have family-friendly things and relax and let our hair down. I don't know what my opponent has done the same. In that same line, I don't know, and so, I hope people are able to vote for me because they appreciate all the hard work that I've been putting in the community. They appreciate the fight that I am fighting. I'm giving them a voice, and I'm going to continue to do so, whether or not I'm in office too. So what people don't understand is I move the way I move because I don't necessarily have to be in office. I'm here because the people want me here. And I'm here because I love the platform it's given me and the access it's given me to help more people, right? Mm-hmm. And so some people are in it for selfish reasons, and I am not. And like, that's why I want people to reelect me so that I can continue to fight for them and I can continue to connect them to things and just have this platform to help people flourish.
To help people flourish. I think that is the best way to go into this last question, which will be a constant last question for every guest that comes on this show. Angie Nixon, State Representative Angie Nixon, what is your vision of a Florida where Black people are able to live in freedom, equity, and authenticity?
I mean, that's my vision. That's my vision for Black Florida. So my vision is for like people to be able to experience joy and to not have to be nervous of just simply existing. I see Black Florida, a Black Florida is where we have Black folks with actual true governing power. And Black people not living on the streets, not being unhoused, Black people creating generational wealth. Because when all of this happens, it transfers over to brown people and to white people and to Asian people and to indigenous people, right? When Black people are uplifted, all races and ethnicities are uplifted as well. And so I see a Black Florida as one that, like, we're just happy. We're experiencing joy. And, like, again, we're no longer just surviving, but we're thriving and we're flourishing.
And how do we get there?
We get there through organizing, through these conversations, through these podcasts, through knocking on doors and talking to people, through electing people that come from the community that really care. Through educating people about like why it's important to go out and vote and hold people accountable year round. We get there through cultural events that bring people there, meeting people where they are, right? Going to them at these different events, agitating them about why they deserve more, why they deserve better, why we should have more than 3% of a $115 billion budget. Like, we deserve so much more. That's our money. They should fund our futures. That's how we get there, by demanding that they do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is your state rep, my state rep, your friend, my friend, Angie Nixon, the first guest of BLKFLA, the podcast. I'm honored, yo. Like, this has been fun. This has been fun. And I'm gonna do this every second and fourth Thursday. So y'all tune in on the MPN Network. And I just want to thank you again. Thanks for showing up. Like, this was fun.
Thanks for having me. And folks should reach out to me. Follow us. Go to our website, floridaforall.vote. Sign up so you can get to work and we can build a Florida for all.
And that's it. This is Jamal Still showing y'all love and appreciation for joining us in this BLKFLA experience. Y'all stay free, stay blessed, and as always, continue to get acquainted with greatness. We are out.
If Revolution was a movie, I'd be theme music. Time to ignite what I spit is lighter fluid. Stepping into it, fixed rays, such a glorious design. Marching into the biggest fight of our lives. Time to spoil the revolution.